Welcome to Her Life Unscripted podcast, inspiring burnt out, stressed out, and stretched thin women to embrace the unscriptedness of life. Hosted by Anna Osborne.
Hello, Happy New Year to all of you at Her Life Unscripted. It is amazing to be talking to you guys these first few days of our new year. It is episode 37, and I am super excited to be here with all of you today on this cold January morning as we move into the first week of January. I had a great holiday season. It was definitely a little busier than I planned, and it's funny how that can sneak up on you where you think you've got things kind of organized so that you're not racing here and racing there. And then at the last minute, I realized there was about 8,000 details that I overlooked and had actually completely overbooked us for things during the holiday. So I made a mental note to plan a little bit differently for next year, but it was really fun. The kids had a great time seeing their cousins and grandparents and all those sorts of things. It really is a time of year that I'm so reflected of the blessings in my life, that I do have a family that comes together for the holiday, and also, kids that get along with their cousins and all those sorts of things, because I know for a number of you who have shared your stories with me, the holidays are actually a place of pretty significant stress, and it doesn't feel so good to be spending extra time with families because of some of the, the tensions or the injuries that have happened. So definitely mindful of that piece of the holidays too. So I'm glad it's behind us. I always so look forward to that time of year. And then when it's over or coming to an end, I'm kind of glad to get my house back to, the way it is. And my grandma used to always say that you find the last of the Christmas tree needles at Easter and the last of the Easter grass at Christmas. And so our tree got so dry this year. It smelled wonderful the entire month that we had it, but it was, my husband and I were laughing hysterically as we left, or as we pulled it out of the house the other night trying to take it down because it was so dry. There are needles everywhere in my house, and we've swept and vacuumed and done that the past 3 days. And I swear, even today when I was walking across the kitchen floor, I found a whole nother clump of them. So I think my grandmother will be right in terms of when we find the last of these needles. So like I said, it is January 2017. And those of you that are listening, kind of a little bit into the future, I hope that you had a nice holiday too, and that whenever and wherever you're listening to this, that you are kind of slowing down and having that reflective place of being able to just kind of connect with what this year will mean for you and what you want it to mean for you. I think we get in this habit of only doing that during January, right? And it's always so interesting because I think it's important throughout our life to be reflective of where we're at and to kind of take stock in what things we're trying to accomplish, what relationships or thought patterns we've outgrown, and all those sorts of things. So hopefully, no matter when you're listening, you are doing just that. And for those of you that listened in December, you know that we have shifted over the show just a little bit to be able to kind of have a theme for the month, if you will. And so last month's theme was all about giving and being of service. And this month, are you guys ready for it? It's going to be absolutely cliche. This month is all about wellness. But like most things I do in my life, we are going to turn wellness on its head. It is not going to be the wellness that has been marketed to you ad nauseum for the last few weeks leading up to New Year's and the first week of the new year in terms of weight loss and fitness and those kind of wellness. We're really talking about wellness from kind of a more holistic, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes sort of way. And I'm excited. I've got some great interviews throughout the month with different folks that work in different aspects of wellness, and really kind of what that looks like in their line of work, but also their personal journeys through kind of working towards or integrating wellness. So that is what our month will look like. So I'm excited for that. I've got a little bit of travel planned for the month of January. So that is going to be fun too. So I've got some shows I'm recording ahead of time in order to be able to go out of town with the family for about a week or so. So yeah, that's kind of it. Also, before I forget, this episode is explicit. There are some curse words that I know I will use as I'm describing today's topic. So if you are listening with your littles around or at work or something like that, go ahead and just pause it, put in your earbuds so that and it's not like crazy profanity, but I always want to let people know ahead of time that there are going to be a few curse words used in today's episode. So that is your warning. That's your heads up. I think that's about it. Oh, also, I have some exciting news about the live events that are going to be coming up. We're planning an amazing retreat for the fall of 2017, most likely in September or October, and we're starting to finalize the details with reservations and how many spots we'll have available, and it's going to be a collaboration with somebody who I just adore and know you guys will too, so I'm just really excited to be planning it. So I do encourage you guys, if you're just the teeniest bit interested, no matter where you live, go ahead and pop over to the website, herlifeunscripted.com, under the retreats tab. And there's a little like sign up box. So you can just put your name and your email address in there, and you can get added to the interest list. So once we officially release the dates, you guys will be the first to hear about it, and you'll get those in real time rather than if there's, a little bit of a delay from when the podcast is aired versus when you guys listen. So really encourage you guys to head over there and do that. Actually, you can do it right now while you're pausing to put your earbuds in so you don't have any curse words said at your workplace. You can also head over to the website and do both of those things at once. So I will see you back here in a minute. So today, our topic is on balance. And why balance is absolute bullshit. Sorry, Mom. I warned everybody there was going to be a few curse words, but I hate the word balance. And I know that I've mentioned that in a few other episodes, but I really wanted to kick off 2017 with just dismantling this word balance and how we use it, because I feel like balance is this huge barrier to the idea of wellness, is that when we're trying to achieve balance, we are self-destructing because it is this bullshit expectation. And we end up being stuck in this place where we aren't connected with our spirit, our soul, our heart, our head, and we are just so disconnected, and there's no wellness that can be achieved. So that is what we are talking about today. And so what I did is I actually decided, I'm still a huge fan of David Letterman. Obviously, he's not on the air anymore, but I loved his top 10 lists. I just thought they were the most hysterical thing. So as I was preparing for the show, I started jotting down like all the reasons of why I think balance is bullshit, because I realized if you guys are going to be listening to this, you may think that balance is the most amazing thing in the world, which is cool. You're welcome to your thoughts and opinions. But if I'm going to say something as, bold as balance is BS, I got to kind of back up why I think that. So what I decided to do was to come up with a top 10 list like Dave Letterman did every night for his show. But what I realized is I didn't want to finish the list, right? If we're going to do a top 10, I'm thinking, just from some of the conversations I've had with you all, that there's a number of you out there that think that balance is bullshit too. In fact, my guest next week, Lisa Crilly, she agrees with me. And we kind of talked a little bit about it during when we interviewed or recorded that interview. So I know there's some of you out there that really believe that too. And through the course of this conversation, there may be some of you that jump on board and go, yeah, I'm with her. Like it is BS. So I only decided to share 6 of my top 10 of why balance is BS. And I want you guys to share what the other 4 are, right? I want it to be kind of a collective list because I know, the ones that are really important to me. And I had to weed a few out in order to leave space so that we can have this be a joint list. So we're going to dive in of why I think balance is bullshit. And honestly, one of the biggest reasons is because I feel like it's totally unrealistic. This idea of achieving balance in our life is really, really unrealistic because no matter where we're at, we're always out of balance, right? There's something in our life that is taking more energy from us and we can't have it all calibrated, right? Like I know that when I'm exercising regularly, like when I'm keeping my stress down and managing my anxiety through exercise, that there's other things that fall through the crack, right? Like for example, there is a class that I love at my gym, and it's an early class. It's 8:15. And so getting us all out the door on days that my kids don't have school at 8:15 is a little bit rushed because there's just a different energy when you don't have, school to get to. And my kids don't get to have their kind of quiet routine, right? And so my connection with them doesn't really happen in the morning the ways that it does when I'm taking a later class or whatever the case may be. And so that isn't balanced, right? I'm focusing on my own self-care and there's probably some connection that's being sacrificed there. And yet if I am spinning myself up and not saying like, it's got to be balanced, if I'm, they need their little morning routine and I'm ruining them, if I'm focusing on what is important to me right now in this moment, that it ends up being so crazy making because it's an unrealistic expectation, right? There's no way that when I'm taking care of my needs, that it's going to be perfectly balanced with taking care of my kids' needs. But you know what? Throughout the day, they still get that connection with me. They still get that ability to slow down and kind of have that slower routine. We just don't do it first thing in the morning, right? So that is the reason that balance is absolutely unrealistic. And that's, obviously why I think it's BS. I read somewhere one time that this idea of achieving balance is something not that we do on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, but that balance should be achieved essentially throughout the course of our life, right? That is, if we have balance in that regard, then we've done okay. But the hard thing is that I don't even think that that is the truth. I get why people say that, right? This idea of, okay, balance isn't a day-to-day thing, but it should be throughout the span of our life. And honestly, I even feel like that's a really unrealistic expectation that throughout the course of our life will have balance. I think that we go through situations where we're doing our best. We're absolutely doing our best. And yet over the course of our life, it's not going to look balanced. And so I really do believe that one of the reasons balance is or BS is because it's an unrealistic expectation. So that's my number one on my list of 10 that you guys will help me add to. The other one is, I think it's crazy making. This idea that we have to be in balance, right? It has us spinning ourselves up in knots and twisting and turning and being so flexible that we actually are on the brink of breaking, right? That every day when I lay my head down to go to sleep, if I haven't been balanced, right? Or I look over the course of my week and I realize that things are really out of balance, I can start to feel like I'm going crazy because not only am I trying to achieve an unrealistic expectation, but I'm also doing it with I'm not doing it because it's what I want. I'm doing it because it's what's expected of me. And that is crazy making, right? I think because balance is, essentially a moving target, what balance looks like one day is totally different of what it looks like another day. That if we have this idea that we have to be achieving balance or centered in that way, that it becomes crazy making because the finish line is always being moved on us. And instead finding peace with where we are and recognizing that that's the perfectly right place we're supposed to be, even if it doesn't make sense or it's really uncomfortable or it's hard, being able to have faith to know that that is actually where we need to be is a really, really important thing. And so I do believe that, balance is this idea of balance is absolutely crazy making. So that's number 2. Number 3, I think the problem with balance, or one of the issues that I have with it, is that it really takes us out of the moment. You think about, being present with what we're doing in life. That's something we want to be able to achieve, right? That when I'm spending time with my husband, I want to be present. I don't want to be distracted with laundry to do or grocery lists to make. Like, I want to be really present and engaged with the time that we share together. And the same is true when I'm with friends or family or even by myself, right? When I'm spending time journaling or walking or whatever the case may be, I want to be very in the moment because being present allows me to take in so much more of that experience. And what I have found with this idea of balance is that it constantly takes us out of the moment because we're almost having to, whether we're aware of it or not, but if we're trying to achieve balance, that we get sort of subconsciously taken out of the moment because we are always checking the barometer, right? We're always checking the scales to make sure that they're aligned. And that doesn't allow us to be in the moment, taking in with all of our senses what it's like to be in that interaction, whether it's with somebody else or with ourselves. And so I really feel like, balance, this expectation of balance becomes something that's almost a thief of being able to be present or in the moment with those around us or with ourselves. The other reason, number 4 on my list of why I think balance is bullshit, is because it's kind of meaningless. And if you guys disagree with any of these, I should pause here. Please let me know. I would love to hear why you think balance is an amazing thing and why it's something that we really should work hard to achieve, because as always, I'm open to your guys' thoughts. But for me, really reflecting on, this episode today, I couldn't really find or think of any ideas of why achieving balance is meaningful. Right? And it was funny, once I kind of phrased it that way, it was like this light bulb went off of what does it mean if I come to the end of my life and I say that I've got balance? Or what is it that I achieve if at the end of my week, I feel like I'm balanced? Like what meaning does that have? Does it mean that I'm a good mom or a good partner or a good therapist or a good business owner? Like, what does it really mean? And the more that I thought about it is it doesn't mean anything, right? That if my measure of being good enough is through something that I'm doing rather than just who I am living and breathing in this earth, that I don't want to buy into that, right? I don't want to try and find meaning in something that actually has this big potential to shame us. And again, this is my take on it, but I feel like it kind of becomes meaningless because it becomes something that we attach all the significance to. But when we really ask the question of why is balance so important, the meaning just isn't a good meaning. It's not a healthy meaning. If you think about the way that I started this podcast, clearly my holiday was busier than I intended, right? It wasn't balanced. And so what does that mean? It means I'm going to look at it a little bit differently next year, right? Like I'll probably be a little bit more mindful of saying yes to things and probably pretty mindful of saying no to some more things. But because it wasn't balanced, it doesn't mean it was a bad holiday or that I did it wrong, right? And so this idea of balance, it really is kind of meaningless, or at least from the ways that I've seen it. So that really is, another piece of why I feel like balance is bullshit. The other point is there's no end point, right? I kind of touched on a moment ago that balance is crazy making. And one of the reasons is because there's no end point, right? It's almost like this hamster wheel where whatever arbitrary end point we put on to define what balance is, right? Is that we can feel like we're in this hamster wheel where it's like, okay, so do we determine whether or not we have achieved balance through looking at our life on a day-to-day moment or a week-to-week or even a month-to-month, right? Like what is that marker we're trying to get to? And because there's no end point, right? Even the end of our lives, if we get to the end of our life and we look over it and say whether or not we've had balance, then what? Right? Like we've screwed it up. We did it wrong because we weren't balanced. Like, I'm sorry. I just can't buy into something that really is this chasing your tail hamster wheel mentality. And that if it is there's no endpoint, right? Like if there's no place you ever get to and you go, sweet, I'm balanced. If it's this constantly moving thing, then part of me feels like that's kind of BS. That is crazy making to be on this hamster wheel that we're expecting to get to a place that has no end. Right? Like I am a big believer, especially when I'm doing therapy with folks, is you need to know where it is you want to get to so that we can work backwards in order to move towards that endpoint, right? Because if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to know if you arrived. Like you could already be in this really great place of being intentional with your life and recognizing that for you, wellness means something different than yesterday that it's going to today, right? This place of acceptance that no matter where you are, be there, right? And yet, if the expectation is it has to look balanced, you're going to lose. And I don't want to play a game where every single one of us loses, right? I had somebody reflect a while ago to me that they felt like I was really competitive. It was interesting because when I first heard that term, I thought, absolutely not. I'm not competitive at all. Like I don't play games and I have to win them. When I'm working out, I want all of us to succeed. I want us all to push past barriers. Like I'm not a competitive person of that nature, but I'm very competitive with myself, right? Like I push myself. I enjoy setting goals. I enjoy stepping outside my comfort zone and learning things about myself. And so what I realized from that reflection from that person is, yes, I'm really competitive, but just with me, right? And so that being said, I don't want to play a game where all of us are always going to lose. And I feel like trying to achieve balance in our lives is a hamster wheel with no endpoint, and we're all going to lose. And then what happens when we all lose? We feel ashamed. We feel like we screwed it up. We feel like it failed. And that's not a good feeling. And so that really is why I feel like balance is bullshit, because there's no endpoint. There's no way to win the balance game, right? And not only win it personally, but collectively, right? Like I'm okay if I lose. I don't have to win. But if all of us are losing, I just feel like I got to tap out. I got to say, no, there's a different way of looking at this where all of us really can win. Okay, so that is my top 5, right? And so I threw in an extra number 6 bonus for you guys, but I do want you to reach out and let me know what what are the other ones that you're going to add to this to make this a comprehensive, Dave Letterman list of 10 why balance is bullshit. But my last one, number 6, is because I feel like balance is just crazy because it keeps us really disconnected, right? You think about, we can't attach to perfect. Like we just can't attach to it. It's not something that we're able to do. And so when we are trying to, achieve this place of balance, we come off looking kind of like we're perfect, right? Which I get that that's not the reality, right? None of us are perfect, but it gets this weird thing to where we almost have this patty perfect of, if we are seeming like we're totally balanced, right? We've got it all together. Then if I look like I'm perfect, I'm so disconnected from you because the reality is I'm so far from perfect, right? I'm trying my hardest most days. I tell my kids that when there's things that they say and, hey, mom, can you do this? And mom, what about this? And sometimes I tell them, you know what? Right now, you guys, I'm trying my hardest. Can we just all take a breath, right? Now, in this moment, I'm trying my hardest. And there's days that my hardest looks like crap, right? And there's other days my hardest looks amazing, right? That's like where it's like you see people's Facebook posts, like, okay, that was their really good day. Show me the other ones. And so we can't attach to perfect. Like we just can't do it. And so I feel like this idea of balance is also this really subtle way to let us know we need to be perfect and that we are disconnected from one another when we are in this place of trying to appear perfect because nobody is. Right? Like the jig is up, the cat's out of the bag, nobody's perfect. And that's why I can't buy into this idea of balance because I feel like it's a sneaky perfection dressed up trying to trick us into buying in. And I don't buy into perfection. I just can't. Right? And so that is my number 6 reason of why I feel like balance is bullshit. So those are my list. But real quick, I want to share this with you. Of course, you guys know that I'm a huge fan of Glennon Doyle Melton, the founder of Momastery. And she posted this thing on her Facebook. And I don't know who this person is. I need to look them up and I'll include it in the show notes and do a little research on. Her name is Marianne Perrone. I don't know if she's an author or what her story is, but I'll share about that. But she shared this thing on her Facebook page. And I had already planned on recording this episode. And then a couple days earlier, she posted this on her Facebook page. And I was like, Glennon, I'm feeling you here, right? Like it was such a good feeling to feel like she was really this post that she put really connected with what I'm talking about today. So before we close, I want to share this with you. And like I said, it is written by Marianne Perrone, Perrone, and it's called Christmas at Midlife. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in the show notes too, if you guys want to read it. And so it says, I am no longer waiting for a special occasion. I will burn the best candles on ordinary days. I am no longer waiting for my house to be clean. I fill it with people who understand that even dust is sacred. I am no longer waiting for everyone to understand me. It's just not their task. I am no longer waiting for the perfect children. My children have their own names. Sorry, this is like emotional. My children have their own names that burn as brightly as any star. I am no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. It already did, and I survived. I am no longer waiting for the time to be right. The time is always now. I am no longer waiting for the mate who will complete me. I am grateful to be so warmly, tenderly held. I am no longer waiting for a quiet moment. My heart can be stilled whenever it is called. I am no longer waiting for the world to be at peace. I unclench my grasp and breathe peace in and out. I am no longer waiting to do something great. Being awake to carry my grain of sand is enough. I am no longer waiting to be recognized. I know that I dance in a holy circle. I am no longer waiting for forgiveness. I believe. Like, this is so powerful. Like, I mean, it is. I'm just filled with so much emotion right now because this is what we're talking about, right? It's not about balance. It's not about achieving this expectation of perfection. That's all bullshit. It's saying right now in this moment, I'm no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. It already did, and I survived. I'm no longer waiting for the time to be right. The time is always now. Like, that is a beautiful thing, right? That is the idea of wellness, that we are accepting where we are and we're going to be all there, right? No matter where you are, just be there, right? Be as present as you can to it. Be as attuned to as you can to it. You can hate it, but it's not going to change when you hate it, right? It changes when you lean into it and accept that this is absolutely, perfectly, imperfectly where you need to be, right? So from the words of Marianne Perrone, posted by Glennon Melton. I am so appreciative of those words to really close our time together today. So I encourage all of you, please, I need to know, right? We've got 4 more things to go on this list. So please reach out and let me know why you believe balance is bullshit. And if you don't, let me know that too. I'm super interested to hear your perspective on that too. So please feel free to do that. And then lastly, do send your feedback into Anna@herlifeunscripted.com or also via the SpeakPipe app. I love to hear your guys' real live voices. You obviously get to hear mine. And so it's really cool to be able to connect with yours as well. So I look forward to hearing from you all soon. And in the meantime, take care of yourself, throw out this expectation of balance and breathe in an expectation of wellness, recognizing that wellness is exactly where we are in this given moment, and that's perfectly okay. And I can't wait to talk to all of you soon. Thank you for letting me into your worlds and into your hearts. Take care, you guys.
Want to learn about the latest retreats, workshops, and speaking events hosted by Anna? Head over to herlifeunscripted.com to get in on all the juicy details. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so we can continue to grow our amazing audience. Lastly, be sure and send in your voice feedback via the SpeakPipe app or to Anna@herlifeunscripted.com. We can't wait to hear from you.